The Galactic Council chamber had never hosted such a gathering. Representatives from 17 different species sat in their designated pods, their various forms of breathing apparatus creating a symphony of hisses, clicks, and mechanical whirs. At the center of the vast circular hall, a single human sat in what could only be described as an interrogation chair. Commander Elena Vasquez watched from the observation deck as her subordinate, no, her friend, Marcus Chen remained perfectly still in the chair below. The restraints weren't necessary. Marcus had walked into this chamber voluntarily 3 days ago and hadn't moved since. He hadn't eaten, hadn't drunk water, hadn't even blinked more than the biological minimum required. The Zephyrians were the first to break. Their crystalline forms resonated with nervous energy, creating a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane. Human, their representative spoke through the translation matrix. We have studied your species for 73 rotations. We know you require sustenance every few cycles. Why do you not request food? Marcus said nothing. The void crawlers shifted their massive segmented bodies. Their representative, a creature that looked like a cross between a mantis and a nightmare, leaned forward. Perhaps the human is defective. We have seen their kind break under far less pressure. Still, Marcus remained silent. Dr. Kethra, the lead xenobiologist from Proxima Centauri, floated in her containment suit filled with methane. Her 6 eyes studied Marcus with scientific curiosity. Fascinating. The human's vital signs remain stable despite the psychological pressure. Elevated stress hormones, yes, but within acceptable parameters. It's as if he's waiting. And Marcus was waiting. Elena knew because she had been there when it happened, when the hegemony fleet had appeared at the edge of human space, when they had broadcast their ultimatum across every inhabited world humanity had ever touched. Submit or be cleansed. The message had been simple, delivered in perfect human languages by beings who had never set foot on Earth. They had studied humanity from afar, catalogued their weaknesses, planned their subjugation with mathematical precision. The hegemony was not like the other species in the galaxy. Where most civilizations had evolved beyond the need for conquest, the hegemony had made it their defining characteristic. They had consumed 47 different species in the past millennium, each absorption making them stronger, more adaptive. Marcus had been humanity's representative to the Galactic Council for 8 years. He had sat through countless debates, translated between species whose concepts of logic were as alien as their physiology, and had earned respect through patience and careful diplomacy. But when the hegemony demanded an answer, the council had done what they always did. They deliberated. For 3 days they had debated the human question while hegemony ships moved closer to populated worlds. Elena remembered the moment everything changed. Marcus had been listening to the Altarian representative explain why humanity's survival wasn't worth risking galactic stability when the communication came in. A burst transmission from New Geneva Colony, 18 million civilians, including Marcus's sister and her children. The colony was gone, not destroyed, absorbed. The hegemony had a process for that, turning living beings into components of their collective consciousness. Death would have been mercy. That's when Marcus had asked to address the council. Elena's hands clenched against the observation deck railing as she remembered what came next. Marcus had stood slowly, his face calm in a way that made her skin crawl. The council chamber had fallen silent, even the Whisper Collective, who never stopped their subsonic communication, had gone quiet. The silence stretched until even the most patient species began to shift uncomfortably. The Zephyrians' chimes became agitated. The void crawler's mandibles clicked. Dr. Kethra's 6 eyes never left Marcus's face. Then Marcus spoke just once, 15 words that Elena would never forget, words that had been transmitted across the galaxy faster than any official council communication. You let them take my family. When I find them, I'll teach you what humans do with monsters. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't made threats or demands. He had simply stated a fact with the same tone someone might use to comment on the weather. But something in those words, something in the way Marcus said them, had made the chamber's environmental systems struggle to maintain their settings. Several species ambassadors had physically recoiled. The Whisper Collective had begun what Elena later learned was their equivalent of screaming. Dr. Kethra had been the first to understand. Her scientific mind had grasped what the others were still processing. She had floated closer to her microphone and whispered, "Council members, I believe we may have miscalculated." The hegemony fleet had been 3 light-years from Earth when they received the transmission. Elena had been monitoring their communications when the change occurred. The orderly advance had become chaos. Ships broke formation. The absorption fleets that had been proceeding towards 7 different human colonies suddenly altered course. They were running. In the 72 hours since Marcus spoke his 15 words, the Galactic Council had received 847 requests for emergency sessions, 243 demands for humanity's immediate expulsion from Council space, and 23 offers of alliance from species that had never before acknowledged human existence. The hegemony themselves had sent a message, their first direct communication with the Council in 3 centuries. The human territorial claims are acknowledged. Hegemony fleets are withdrawing to previous boundaries. We apologize for any misunderstanding. Now Marcus sat in silence while the greatest minds in the galaxy tried to understand what they had unleashed. Elena knew they would never figure it out. They couldn't comprehend that Marcus hadn't been making a threat. He had been making a promise. The difference was something uniquely human and absolutely terrifying to species that conquered through calculation rather than conviction. The Void Crawler representative spoke again, its voice trembling through the translation matrix. "Human Marcus Chen, your species is unpredictable. How do we know you won't turn this violence upon us?" For the first time in 3 days, Marcus moved. He turned his head slightly, just enough to look directly at the Void Crawler, and smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Then he returned to his vigil, waiting for the Council to decide humanity's fate, while somewhere in the dark, between stars, the most feared predators in the galaxy told themselves they had made a tactical withdrawal. But in the deepest parts of space, where even whispers carried across light years, Marcus Chen's 15 words echoed still, and entire civilizations learned to fear the sound of human certainty. The Council would deliberate for weeks more, but the outcome was already decided. Humanity would keep its worlds, its freedom, and its secrets. After all, some doors once opened could never be closed again.